It is a man's responsibility to take care of his woman. How big would you dream if you knew you couldn't fail? How much are you spending on girls and how much are you spending on your mum? Don't treat your business account like a personal spending account. If you have a business and you're still working in the business, you don't have a business, you have a side hustle.
What kind of cash do you need to start a dropshipping business then?
Whenever I did a business deal, I never had a contract. Always figure out your exit plan before you figure out your entry plan.
You came dripped out head to toe in like Gucci and just said, I'm a dropshipper making hundreds of thousands a month.
I know so many people that they've made more money from a course than they have from dropshipping. People, they always set 2 alarms, right? And I feel like the first alarm is for the man you want to be. And the second alarm is for the man you are. So the best people you can learn off is people who have just done what it is you're trying to do. There's a saying, we treat the body rigorously so it won't be disobedient to the mind.
Quick one before we jump into this podcast, do me a solid favor, hit that like button, hit subscribe and drop a comment below this video. If you're looking to remove images, videos, search results or fake accounts online, go to contentremoval.com, but don't take my word for it. Here's some music.
Frank, you're a legend. I just saw this. Layla also thinks you're a legend, which in my mind means you're which means you're a double legend in my mind. If you get my wife to think you're a legend, then you're extra cool in my mind. Dude, thank you so much, genuinely. That was such a pain.
Lester Javelona, welcome back to the podcast.
It's good to be here again. I know I said that in the last episode, but
mate, honestly, it's been, what is it now? Probably about 2 years, I reckon, since our last episode. Mm-hmm. The last episode we did, absolute ecom banger, sent it on all levels at the time. We discussed getting to 350k a month, and obviously now you're north of $1 million a month. Mm-hmm. Drop shipping and brand. There's a lot that's changed, a lot of nuances. The people requested the life out of me to get you back on the podcast and talk about this. And I know you wouldn't do me dirty and do another podcast. So I'm glad to have you here, my man. I suppose the first place for us to start is, and guys, if you want to learn about Lester's journey, obviously to 350k, click the link in this bio and you can listen to the first podcast because that will cover most of that off. But I suppose I just want to start with what has changed and had to develop in your mind and in your business to be able to take you from 350 to north of $1 million now? Like what are the big differences?
I think the main difference is hiring good talent, because when you go from 0 to 10k a month, 0 to 100k, and well, just 100k even, you're probably doing it all by yourself, and you don't really have a good team. Maybe you have a couple of VAs. VAs don't really count as a team. But once you go from 100k onwards, that's when you definitely need a good team and you definitely need to hire good talent. So to go from, say, 100 to 500, that's when you really need strong people who will manage everything for you. Because if you're doing it all yourself, you're going to just burn yourself out. Because I think that's what's changed in this past year, because I haven't really been doing everything by myself. I've had a really strong, good team behind me. And that's just came over, actually it was thanks to the podcast. I hired my ops manager from there. He actually reached out to me through Skype and then said that, hey, I listened to your podcast. And then, we took off from there.
So how long has that ops manager been in place now? 2 years?
Just 1 year.
1 year?
Yeah, so he was there since July last year. And July last year was kind of when I thought, okay, I need to do a lot of work for my business. And then I took I don't want to call it a monk mode, because monk mode I feel like it's so abused, but I pretty much did a monk mode where I just did 6 months of just straight work, and then towards December I went on a nice little Europe holiday, and then still in my holiday phase right now. So
coming off the back of a cold Europe and obviously a little bit of a warm one in Dubai for us here now. I mean, when we pan round during this video, guys, you're going to see the Burj Al Arab and Dubai in all its glory. It's absolutely phenomenal and amazing here. Mate, I think, what are the key systems then that you've had to put in place with this operations manager to be able to scale is the question.
Okay, so to put it this way, just to bring that question back, another question, the best way to scale your business is by hiring talent, and it's not just someone to do the operations, it's first someone to just help you around with, because first thing you do with a dropshipping business is, first of all, you need someone to do the customer service. You need someone to answer the emails, answer the Facebook comments, and then after that, then you hire someone to communicate with, for example, your agent, and then someone to communicate with your media buyers. If you have media buyers is also something that I've invested heavily in, because I feel like I was just spending too much time on advertising and too much time doing everything. So I had to plan all of the creatives, I had to plan all of the copywriting, everything. So then, I hired media buyers, and now I work with an agency right now which does a lot of the media buying, especially for my bigger brands, because agencies are great because they work off performance. So if they don't perform, then they don't get paid.
Have you noticed, because obviously when I was speaking to Davey Fogarty in past episodes, and some of his YouTube content has mentioned about how some of these agencies can take advantage, especially like email automation agencies and stuff like this. Have you just cut all that out just by making it solely a performance-based pay? Yeah,
so you do performance-based, but also the way you avoid that is you have to understand your business as well, because the agency, they don't give a fuck about your business, because it's not their business, it's yours. So if they underperform, they don't really care. Which is why I feel like when a lot of people hire these agencies, they're like, oh, sweet, it's time for me to step away. I'm going to go on a nice holiday and not do anything. But that's where, like, especially at the start, is when you're meant to double down. You have to double down on all the business work, because that's when it's like your make or break. Because if you can't scale with a small team, you can't scale with a big team, and if you can't scale with a big team, you can't scale at all. So,
I suppose most people that listen to this are going to want to start in dropshipping. Obviously, you've gone on to brand, and we'll go on to brand further along this podcast. But I suppose most people start with dropshipping, so I think it would be great if we could hear from you what things need to be in place at every level, from start of dropshipping to when you get to 50K, what do you have to have in place for 100K, and on from that, from your journey.
Yeah, well, let's go from the start. So obviously at the start, first you need to find a product to sell, which a lot of people are like, what's the best tools? How do I do product research? I don't know what to sell. You pretty much just have to ask yourself a simple question of, what are people going to buy? Because that's how you sell stuff, because people don't understand that money comes from other people. And the way you get money from other people is you deliver them a product or a service. With dropshipping, most of the time, unless you're drop servicing, you're delivering them a product. So then you have to ask yourself, what product would people buy? What products are people interested in? So you could kind of reverse engineer that question and try to find what people need in their life. Because if you give someone something that they need, then they're more likely to buy it. Because, for example, a lot of like very universal products, like a posture corrector, for example, or like there's this little neck tool. Those are products that I've sold very well in the past, and they've sold very well because they're products that solve a problem. So first of all, you have to go find a problem-solving product. I know it's like a very universal term, but problem-solving products are the best because you could sell them off impulse. And especially with dropshipping, a lot of people, they expect to be profitable right off the start, off cold traffic. If you're selling something like, clothing or jewelry probably not as much, but clothing, how do you expect someone to go buy your shirt that has a cool logo? Nobody's going to buy it. Nobody cares about it. Versus if they're buying a product that'll help their back pain or their neck pain or their leg pain. Those are products that people are just going to buy straight away off impulse, off cold traffic. So I guess that's the first step. Find yourself a really good, strong product. And then next is create ads for it. You could either create ads or create the website. So I'll go through creating the ads. So I don't usually recommend this because I like to, and personally haven't really touched or seen any of the products that I sell, but I'd advise that you do invest some time into sending the product to yourself and seeing the product first, making sure that it's a good product, and then take some photos of the product, make yourself a little ad. This process does take longer because you have to wait for the product to arrive versus just drop shipping. And I mean, you can get random footage online, but user-generated content, UGC, it works very, very well, especially nowadays. We've seen that our UGC campaigns have actually outperformed the regular campaigns because there's a lot of dropshippers right now, and a lot of them just use the same cut-up content, or they'll go steal someone else's content, rip it, post it on their store, and they complain and ask themselves, why doesn't it work? Well, it doesn't work because you've just stolen something, and Facebook knows that you've stolen it, which is why they give you high CPMs. So the way around that is to just film your own content. So then you film your own content, you use the content on your website, you do the copywriting. Okay, back in the day, copywriting used to be like a big hassle because I'm not a copywriter. I don't know what to write. I don't know, do I do like dot points of like all the cool benefits, the features? But now, especially with AI, it's so simple. You just type into ChatGPT, for example, write me a product description for a dog bed, or write me a product description for a back tool. It'll write you one straight away, and if you're not happy with it, then you just tell it, make it sharper, make it less salesy, make it more emotional, and it'll do that for you. And then the key is not to copy and paste that. The key is to use that as inspiration and then edit it a little bit, because again, sometimes the AI, it kind of seems a little robotic and doesn't seem natural. So yeah, I recommend to just edit it a little bit, because you want to be putting effort in. And then after launch your ads, test it out. If it works, sweet. If it doesn't, then move on. I feel like a lot of people are very, very emotional, and they get caught up into their first, second, third product, and they really want it to work and they don't want to let it go. But you have to be a business owner at the end of the day and make a decision. If this is losing you money, then go do something else.
I think that gives people a real good understanding of how they can basically break down and break into dropshipping and all that stuff. And the kind of what you're essentially saying there is your first product in a lot of cases isn't going to be a winner. You might even have to try like 5, 10, 20 products to get that first winner. Yeah. But most people are, even when I was looking at the questions before the podcast for the Q&A that we'll do after this, I was reading the Q&A questions, and I recognized some of the faces asking the questions, and they were asking the same questions 2 years ago. And the reason they're asking the same questions today as they were 2 years ago is because none of them have launched a first product or a second product.
No, I haven't.
And that's what happens a lot in this space when you get asked about dropshipping, because a lot of people think dropshipping is dead. But I would say probably 30, 40, 50, 60, 70% of the, even probably 70% now of the products that I see online are all dropship, right?
Yeah.
So is dropshipping dead?
Well, people that say dropshipping's dead, I'd like to ask them if the internet is dead. Because dropshipping is an inventory business model. It's just, I could get it from this place for cheaper, so I'm going to go post it without having the product with me right now, and then I'm going to go sell it, and I'm just going to collect the margin on top, send it straight from the factory to you. So yeah, dropshipping's definitely not dead. Ecom's actually really booming because a lot of people are getting lazier. They don't want to go into a store and buy something, and a lot of the products that dropshippers, I guess, sell aren't products that are readily available in stores. It's not something you could easily get in stores, which is also a factor you should include. Is you should ask yourself, can I get this product in store? Because if you can get it in store, then guess what? Everyone else is going to go, just go in store. Like I've seen it before as well. I've seen it in my ads where people comment, thanks, this is great, I'm going to go buy it in store. One of the ads was, for example, fire blanket. It actually performed really well, and a lot of the comments was, this is a great idea, I love the marketing behind this, how it promotes that if there's a fire, it could be really dangerous, so you should buy this. Thanks, I'm going to go in store and buy one. And you want to avoid that, and you want to make sure that people can't really get your product in store, so that's like a factor to... So not in store, and maybe not on Amazon as well? Well, Amazon's different, because Amazon and eBay, for example, are like all the products, and that's why I don't recommend Amazon dropshipping or eBay dropshipping. I feel like anyone who's promoting Amazon dropshipping or eBay dropshipping, like, I don't know, I don't really buy into it, because you don't have control over anything. You don't have control over your website, the type of traffic you're getting. Whereas if you have an ecom business, it would be good to have control over everything. You'd be able to control the type of people going on your website, where they're from, and you can do a lot of the targeting as well.
But what's your comeback when people say, because obviously I've heard of people selling out Amazon products for seven, 8 figures.
Yeah.
The Amazon brands that they've built specifically on the back of Amazon traffic, Amazon ads, and Amazon listings. So what's your comeback on that then? Because obviously people are making money out of that, and people are selling brands like that. I mean, what's your kind of?
Well, you can make a lot of money off Amazon, which is great. I've personally tried Amazon, I've tried eBay as well, and it hasn't worked for me. And I'm just being completely honest. Dropshipping's worked for me, and it's worked for me very well, which is why I kind of endorse dropshipping. And I'd say dropshipping, it's a lot easier to get into than a lot of people think, because a lot of people, they overthink it, and a lot of people start things like agencies, for example, and they don't know how to market. They don't know how to do a lot of this stuff that they're selling. Whereas with dropshipping, if you fuck up, for example, you're the one losing money, not your clients.
Yeah, so you're right in what you're saying there, because obviously a lot of people that start these agencies have even when I started content removal, I'll be totally honest, I didn't know how to remove content yet. I started it, took on clients, and didn't know how to remove content yet, and had to learn on the job how to remove content because I was young. I had to change my life, and that was how I started it. And I delivered on all the clients, everything like that, and I became one of the best at it. But that's how I had to start. I didn't have time to think about, should I do this, should I do that, what product this, what all this crap that people get caught in the emotion. I launched a Wix website, and I launched a fucking business, and I had a chat fucking thing on the website, and that's it. I think people get too caught up in the emotion of, like we were saying before, what to sell, how to sell it, how much for, how much margin.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you've never sold anything online, so how the fuck do you know?
Exactly.
You know by trial and error, right?
Yeah, I feel like experience is the best teacher. If you want to learn something, then just do it, fail at it, fail a couple times, and eventually you'll just succeed at it. It sounds like a really dumb idea to just keep failing until you succeed, but I guess that's how the light bulb was invented. That's how the fucking airplanes were invented. It's just people who had a crazy idea, and they knew they were going to get there eventually, and they just didn't stop until they succeeded.
Well, classic example is this podcast. I think I can't remember what number podcast you came on when you came on before when we were talking about this, but I'm a damn sight further down the road now, episode 140 plus, and I was when we last discussed with the audience and everything else. And it's no different to growing a business in the sense of, like, you have to take the reps and do the actions, and rather than, don't go listen to this dropshipping podcast and then listen to 17 other fucking dropshipping podcasts. Go and take action on what Lester's telling you in this one, and then maybe you'll be further ahead in 12 months' time, and you won't have to ask the same question. Now your question becomes a more intelligent question predicated on your real world information feedback that you've had from the marketplace in regards to you taking the fucking action. I think that's kind of the thing that I've learned from seeing you come on the podcast first time and second time, and what's been asked of the questions and everything else. But I just want to go back to that point, because you told people how to start the drop shipping. So now they've started it, they've got a product, it's scaling well, it's doing numbers, they're having their first sales. I asked you the question before about what things do you implement at what type of scale to make things move faster. So
first of all, cash flow is super important, especially at the start. You can't get a 10, 20, 30K a month business with no cash flow, and I don't really advise people to get credit cards just to full send it. Just be really wise with how you manage your cash flow. First of all, get a job, save some money, and then once you've saved some money, then go invest that into your business. So, for example, if you're spending $100 a day on ads, so let's do an example in Australia. Your Shopify payouts typically, for example, your Shopify payouts on Monday will come out on Tuesday, all of your sales from Monday all the way up until 10 a.m. And then after 10 a.m., all those sales will come the day after. So you kind of just have to calculate everything and manage your cash flow really well, because you don't want to stretch yourself too far to the point where, and this has happened with so many people I know, where they can't fulfill their orders because they've just spent it all on marketing, or they're just spending it on other stuff and then they just run out of cash flow, or they just scale too hard, spend it all on ads, all of their money goes on hold, and then they can't do anything. They can't pay their staff, they can't pay their advertising, they can't pay their cost of goods. So yeah, it's to really be practical with how you budget everything. Yeah.
So what kind of cash do you need to start a dropshipping business then? In essence, really.
Well, tell me a target you want to hit in sales a month, and I'll tell you how much.
Right. So in the beauty niche, I want to launch a fucking.
How much do you want to hit in revenue?
I want to hit 20K a month.
Okay. Well, if you want to hit 20K a month in revenue, that's under 1K a day. So having $2,000 would be enough to hit that, assuming everything goes well. Because you also have to realize you're going to get PayPal holds, you're going to get Shopify holds eventually. They're going to ask you to upload your information. It's normal. It's just so the banks know. They do like a KYC, so like a know your customer. They just want to know that there's a real person behind like doing all this. So yeah, you would need maybe like 2 to 5K a month. But that's assuming that first product that you're testing in the beauty niche works. If it doesn't, then you'll probably need like upwards of 10K just to comfortably test a lot of products without getting too emotional into it.
So for someone to learn to go from zero knowledge in dropshipping and $0 to get into a product that generates 10K a month, so 120 grand a year, which would solve most people's problems that listen to this anyway. As a starting level, give them enough money to be able to get out of a job so they go full time into e-commerce and dropshipping. How much money do I need?
I'd say comfortably $10,000 is good, because then you could split that budget into two parts. The $5,000 which you have saved up for scaling, and then the other $5,000 which you will commit to testing products, because then you could test a lot of products and one of them will perform well, or one of them will even just be slightly profitable, and then you could use the rest of that money to scale.
So how many products do you reckon and estimate that I would have to test in order to find that, in like from your experience?
It's hard to say, because for example, my team have a lot of parameters. So if we don't hit certain KPIs after a certain amount of impressions, we're just going to kill a product off. But especially for beginners, when people are starting out, they get really emotional into it. So I'd say if you don't find a product that sells well after 10, 20 products, then fuck, maybe this isn't for you, because it's really, really easy to get sales.
Give me the parameters then, so they can get sales faster.
Okay.
Give me your actual parameters, like that you and your team execute on, because I want them to have the parameters so they can have the best opportunity from a podcast, not selling them a fucking course, from a podcast, how they can do this. So
for example, if we hit 5,000 impressions and there's no buying intent, so no add to cart, no initiate checkout, it's a dead product, because if it's reached 5,000 people and nobody's interested in it, then. And as well, we look into the comments. So if the comments are saying something good or bad about a certain product, then we'll read that and assess judging from those comments. Because there's been times where we've tested a product and the comments are super negative, like this doesn't work, this is a scam, whatever. And then we'll just go search up YouTube reviews, for example, see. There was one product, it was like a little hair curler, and then people were saying that it just like breaks really easily, and there was a lot of reviews, so that product we killed off really quickly. But yeah, I guess the parameters is just look at your buying intent and look at just your KPIs. You have to calculate your cost per add to cart to break even. I guess the main thing is your break-even ROAS. You have to know how much you need to hit to break even. So what's the easiest way for them to calculate that? So break-even ROAS it's sale price minus it's like your margin divided by your sell price. Right. So sale price minus how much it costs divided by your sale price, I think. But yeah, like you guys can Google break-even ROAS. I haven't done it in a long time, because we use calculators on spreadsheets. So
So it automatically calculates for you because you've now got the data that you just put it in. You basically put it in, and you know from when you choose the product, essentially at your level, you know what it has to hit in impressions and everything else, and how many dollars they add to test it before you even launch the thing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it changes. Is there any way that they can gain access or get anything like this that can help them?
I could drop a ROAS calculator sheet below in the comments. I'll go send it to you, but. I'm very strict and very systemized with the targets that we need to hit, because if we don't hit those targets, then I'm going to go kill that product straight away because it's just burning money.
When you're at the level you're at now, how many products a week are you testing?
We're easily testing 40, 50 products a week.
And out of the 40, 50 that you test, and obviously you're selecting them from your knowledge now, just so that people can understand at your level, how many of those are fails?
40 could fail.
Right.
Or up to 40 could not even get a sale.
So the reason I asked you that, and the reason why I wanted you to articulate that, is because even after so many years of doing this and making as much money as you have,
we still fail too.
You failed 40 fucking times this last week, just this week alone, and last week another 40 times just to get 5 winners, essentially. I think once most people understand that, they can understand there's not much real difference between you and them, other than the fact that you've took more reps and more risk than they have.
Yeah, no risk, no reward. I feel like people need to understand if they're in a first world country, like people in Australia, America, United Kingdom, those tier 1 countries, if they fuck up, what's going to happen? They're probably just going to stay at their mum's house and, just go to work. Like, there's nothing. It's not like they're going to starve to death if they fail. And people aren't really willing to just full send it and go all the way. I feel like if you live in one of those tier 1 countries, you have to be hyper productive. You have to just put everything into it, and it'll work. It'll definitely work, and it's proven to work. It's obviously hard to build that confidence without seeing the success first, but I guess it's just believing that it'll work, and then just like staying on the right path.
So let's just touch again on this, because I really want to finish that topic where we were talking about the different things that you need in place at the different amounts of scale. So just break it down for me on a timeline: 0 to 20, 0 to 20 to 50, 50 to 100, 100 to 200, 200 to 500, 500k to $1 million. What are the key things, key milestones, and things that they need to put in place in their business at those points?
So from 0 to 10k, very simple. You just have to put in the reps. You could do it after work. Just go set up some ads. Once you have a product that's rolling, that's when it gets really quick. That's when you go from 0 to 30k very, very easily. And what people need to understand is the traffic that you guys are capturing, all the sales you guys are getting, they're, at the end of the day, they're customers. They're real people, and they're people that you need to treat like people. Because a lot of people just think that they just get money off these guys and then that's it. But we send out a lot of frequent email updates about their orders. So usually Shopify has like a 2 or 3 step flow. We've created our own flow in Klaviyo where it's like a 5-step flow that gives the customers a lot of updates about their orders, and we make it really personalized. We make it come from a personalized account, so then it seems as if it's very personal. And it gives a nice personal touch, because then they'll like your brand, and you have to treat them like people. And then later on is when you upsell them more products. More on that in a second. So from 30 to say 100k, it would be good to have a line of credit at that point, because you want to scale fast. But again, just manage your cash flow really well. Make sure. I usually don't like to push it too quick. I know last year I did 0 to 100k in like 4 days. But that's because we already had all of the processes warmed up. Because payment processing, people don't realize payment processing after 100k actually becomes quite difficult. Because Stripe and all these other Visa, MasterCard, they're going to start looking into your shit if you're processing a lot of money. Which is why I see all of these like gurus that are saying they're making X amount per day, and they're not complaining about issues that you actually experience when you reach those certain numbers. So for one of my stores, actually, we had to get a private payment processor in Brisbane. which they've been very helpful because we had issues when we were scaling past 100K, 200K a month. So to go from 100 to 500 is when you definitely need staff. Before I forget, so before 100K, you definitely need email customer service people, so just VAs. You find them on Upwork, you can find them on online jobs, whatever. So get a couple VAs, train them, and then I like to have maybe 2 or 3 VAs who are just there on standby for anything I need. For example, managing Facebook comments, contacting with the supplier, because I connect. So what I've done is I've connected my customer service agent with my dropshipping fulfillment agent, and then they communicate with each other. Whenever there's a customer issue, they'll go and discuss that, and then usually my agent will just go send a replacement out. So that's the first thing you should do. And then the second thing I recommend is hire. It's not to outsource everything so you don't do everything straight away. Like, you don't want to do that. It's to learn all of the parts of the business and then one by one outsource it. So train people who can manage it. So then what's next I like to do is I like to push the ads off to media buyers, because a lot of people, they like to get into the nitty-gritty of the ads. They want to know the best strategy, the best method. They want to know the best everything. But it's honestly it's endless. There's so many different ways to do it, and there's so many different ways to succeed. Everybody just wants to find the best way, which is why a lot of people, like if you saw in that Q&A, a lot of people asking me, Lester, what's your best books? Because they don't want to read the shit books. They don't want to go through the shit to get the good stuff. But you need to learn. So yeah, first thing I recommend is do the ads yourself and then go hire a media buyer. And then the media buyer usually is someone who's very well trained at handling your ads, and they'll handle the ads and they'll handle it without emotion. Because a lot of people get very emotional. For example, if a product is working really well, and then you get 1 or 2 bad days, you suddenly freak out and you're like, holy shit, like, fuck, my lifestyle's going to be messed up now because this product's not going well. So then they start to freak out, turn off ads which were performing well, and then, yeah, they just mess the whole thing up. So what I recommend is, first of all, it depends on the person, really. Because personally for me, I am a very emotional person, and I'll be completely honest, I was that person who was turning good ads off because it wasn't working for a day or two, and then I'd freak out. So yeah, outsource that, or build a small team. Not really outsource, but build a small team within your company for the media buying. Have a couple, and then what you can do is, when it's performing well, you want your media buyers that have been with you for a while, you want them to be the senior media buyers, and then you hire a bunch of junior media buyers. And then you have to just systemize it so they schedule the launches, and then the senior media buyers assess it, and then scale it onwards. So that's next. And then it depends if you're dropshipping or if you're using a 3PL. So I'm actually using both right now. I use, I don't know if you want me to plug it or not, but Go for it. Future Fulfillment in Victoria. They've been really good with their fulfillment services.
I'll get them to sponsor the podcast.
Yeah. Have some Evian. So Future Fulfillment's actually been really good, and they've been really helpful with everything. They've been super supportive as well. I think Davey's worked with them.
Yeah, I think Davey's put a few products through them. I recognise the name. I think there's quite a few brands in Australia using them actually as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of brands in Teamwork Makes the Dream Work.
Yeah, mate. I look after you.
Yeah, so Future Fulfillment's been really good. If you're going to use a 3PL, it's not as much work as if you're dropshipping. If you're dropshipping, then you definitely need a fulfillment manager who handles all the orders, all the customer disputes, because sometimes you'll get a lot of reports in there from like the Australian Financial Complaints Authority about your products, or just customers being customers. You'll get a lot of disputes sometimes, so you really want a fulfillment manager who will be in contact with your customer service as well. And then they could also contact your agent. So for that job, $20, $30 an hour is fine. Then what you need to do, which is important, is have like a COO, like an operations person who does all of your operations. So yeah, my operations person's he's a fucking G, bro.
And he came to you through this podcast?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Well, I'll give him a shout out, Jaden. If you're listening to this, you're a top G. So yeah, he does all of my operations for me, and he overlooks the whole process.
Legends, I hope you're enjoying this episode, but I wanted to interrupt you because I've managed to get Lester to agree to doing a mastermind. We're doing a mastermind in September time, and if you're interested, the link's going to be in the bio. We're going to cover everything from scaling from 0 to 100k, 100k to 350, and 350 to $1 million plus a month. We're going to be covering everything: drop shipping to brand, how to pivot, everything else, all the systems, all the processes, all the hiring schedules, who you need to hire, when you need to hire them, everything else in between. He's going to be covering the whole lot. Let's get back to the podcast. But if you're interested in coming to that mastermind in September, click that link in the bio. We'd love to see you there. Much love. Enjoy this.
If you have a business and you're still working in the business, you don't have a business, you have a side hustle, is what I like to say. Because a business owner shouldn't be doing all the tasks that the employees are meant to be doing. The business owner's job is to expand the business, which is my role right now. So it's a lot more hands-off for me recently, which is why I've done a lot of travel and yeah.
I suppose as well, you've sold a few stores along the journey as well. I mean, why did you sell some stores to get rid of them and do that?
To be honest, it was just to free up cash flow because I've had to sell a couple of stores because, for example, the store in 2021, I got offered $250,000 for it, US dollars. That store I sold straight away because I needed $250,000 because I needed that to fund the business. Because what a lot of people don't understand as well is it's a business and the lifeblood of the business is the money. And if you suck up all the money from that business and you go spend it living life, whatever, then how's the business meant to run? It's not going to run at all. And I think that's what differentiates the successful people and the non-successful business owners. The really successful ones, the hyper-successful ones, they go all in. Like, just look at Elon Musk, for example. After he sold PayPal, he put all of his money into SpaceX, into Tesla. So you really just need to keep reinvesting and then make sure that you set a small percentage to have fun with because, I mean, if you work really hard, at the end of the day, you do want to have fun. So, yeah.
So how have you set up your lifestyle then in terms of percentage-wise and how you split your cash from your business so that you can obviously have fun and enjoy the life? Because most people that know you, see you on Instagram, look at the kind of things that we're doing right now and everything else and the abundant lifestyle that you live, the watches, everything else. Like, what are you doing, 10%, 20% per month just to go and do this with? Because I think people think that you probably spend more of your cash flow than what you actually do, and I want to break that down for them.
Yeah, so, I mean, to be honest, I do spend quite a bit. Usually I'd spend around 30% of my actual net income because I feel like if you're going to give 30%, because the company tax in Australia is 30%, I feel like if you're going to give 30% to the government, you might as well give 30% to yourself. And that leaves a business with 40% to still operate. And it operates really well. And I've been very strict with that 30%. And a lot of the times I don't actually end up hitting 30%. A lot of it just goes into my personal savings. And then that's when recently I had enough, bought a car, and then, yeah, it's just...
Do you want to tell them what car you bought?
Yeah. So I bought a red Ferrari 488 in cash. It's actually sitting in the dealership right now, and then... maybe in like 2 weeks when I decide to come home, I'm going to go unveil it.
Congratulations, bro. Because I tell you why I want to congratulate you on a personal level is because a couple of years ago, I've probably known you since you were 17. We've been friends for quite a while now. And you walked in my apartment after we'd been friends for a while, and we did this first episode of this podcast. And there's a few things I've noticed that have changed with you over the years. I want these lot to understand because I've seen you close. One, you wanted to, at that time, you had your first $1 million in the bank, liquid, remember? And you wanted to go out and buy a fucking Lamborghini.
Yeah.
And I said to you, do not fucking buy a Lamborghini. Put all that back into growing what you did.
Exactly.
And also you came dripped out head to toe in like Gucci and all this loud shit just said, I'm a drop shipper making hundreds of thousands a month, right? You agree?
Yeah,
right?
well, I feel like also it's a phase. And like it happens with everyone, and a lot of people are probably still in that designer phase where they want to tell everyone, like, look how much money I've got. And I mean, I understand it, but eventually, obviously, you grow older, and then.
But that's the maturity piece that I've seen with you, and I was getting onto that. Is the maturity piece I've seen from you is I sat down. I remember sitting down with you just outside my kitchen, and I said to you, Lester, mate, I believe you can do this, this, and this, and this, and you're well on the way to hitting the levels that I told you could hit. I said, but mate, you don't need that, you don't need that, you don't need that until you get to that. And now I see how you're moving, and you're like, holy fuck, he listened.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, at the end of the day,
you don't wear labels now, do you? Not really a label guy.
Well, I like to wear silent luxury. So, for example, this shirt's actually Louis Vuitton, but you can't tell, right? Yeah. I like to make sure that it's not. I don't wear a lot of labels. I like to wear a lot of recently. So when we were in Europe, actually the UK, I was in Harrods and I came across this brand, Loro Piana.
Yeah.
And fuck, I love the Loro Piana summer walks. I actually bought 2 pairs.
Iman wears them as well, actually.
Yeah. They're a great brand, and I really like silent luxury now because you kind of go under the radar while still looking presentable. And I feel like, when you're wearing a lot of the flashy brands, people that have been through that phase just look at you and just think you're an idiot.
Yeah, because obviously you meet a lot of top people like myself in e-commerce game, and a lot of them, when you get to like the David Fogarty level, they're wearing a white t-shirt and a pair of jeans, but they've done $350,000 that year, or 500 or $500 million. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, as you ascend through the levels, you don't want this Lamborghini lifestyle. So the reason I wanted you to say that on here is because I want everyone on this podcast, after this podcast, to be inspired enough to go and try their hand at the dropshipping stuff or whatever, because there is legs in it. But I want them to also understand that when they start to hit 20, 30K a month, which I believe that they can do from listening and taking action on something like this, don't go and fucking wank it off buying dumb shit.
Exactly, yeah. So first of all, don't drag all of the money in your business and just spend it. Don't treat your business account like a personal spending account. Even the Australian Taxation Office tells you not to spend it like a personal account, because you have to treat your business like a business. And if you're setting up a business, you have to understand that as a business owner, you have to make business owner decisions, and one of which is not just spending everything in the company account.
Fucking right, mate. Honestly, I remember being sat there with you, literally outside the kitchen, and we was looking at your first $1 million that you'd ever made, and no one was more hyped for you to make it than me. And I was like, please execute the right plan and the right strategy with this, because it's going to scale you to the moon. And this is what you're doing now. Like you're talking, from that point on, that was your first $1 million. You're doing 12 to 15 million a year now. And and if you execute right now at this level, you're going to do inside 2 years, 50 to 100. Do you know what I'm saying? Because you've got the systems now in place, and you've invested in the systems, and the systems are worth way more to you now than the fucking Lamborghini was back then.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely. I feel like, I guess it's just maturing. I do look back at myself when I was 18, 19, 20. Even though 20 was last year, but I do look back at myself during those years, and I think that I did make a lot of bad decisions, but I mean, I'm kind of happy I made it, because I needed to make a bad decision to learn what a bad decision was and what a good one is, because again, I don't really have a lot of mentors. Obviously, I have some mentors that I learn off, just like that I just talk to. Actually, recently, I've came across a really good mentor, which we were talking about the other day, which I'll talk on later. But yeah, I don't really have a mentor, so I don't know what steps to take. So yeah, I guess you just make a couple bad decisions. Like one of the bad decisions was whenever I did a business deal, I never had a contract, which is
wild.
Actually, my real estate agent's mum actually told me, because we were going to work on a hemp brand. She was the one that told me this little bit of wisdom, which was, always, for everything, have a contract. Contracts are important. And I didn't realize that contracts were important. I didn't even have employment contracts, because it was so new to me. But now everything, I have contracts. Another thing she taught me was, which I think is just a good bit of wisdom, is always figure out your exit plan before you figure out your entry plan. So whenever you're in a business, always figure out the exit before you figure out the entry. Always figure out what you want in the end out of that business or that idea or whatever.
I suppose in the way that works for, like, if you're doing just a generic dropshipping brand that you plan to sell, is just plan what you aim to exit it for and sell it for on the back end of scaling it.
Yeah, exactly. Which is what we're focusing on a lot. So we're doing a lot more branded work because, I mean, dropshipping's great, but I feel like dropshipping is a stepping stone. It's really, like, it's doable to execute high numbers with dropshipping, but it gets very difficult because the lead times are very long for your customers, which I know will scare a lot of young dropshippers off. But you have to understand, if you give your customer good communication, they're not going to complain as much versus if you just don't message them. Because people think that dropshipping is this like magic thing that you put money into and just spits money out, and it feels like that, especially when you're spending money on ads. Say you spend $1,000 and then you make $3,000. You're like, holy shit, this is just making me so much money. But you have to understand, at the end of the day, it's a business and you have customers, and those customers are humans, and you need to take care of those people. So yeah, it's just customer care is the number one thing that we value within our company the most, because customer care is pretty much, it gives you happy customers, and the customers are the lifeblood of your business.
The problem with dropshipping in the world environment is the fact that there's a lot of no shippers.
Yeah,
there's a lot of scammers, a lot of like PayPal frauders. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people on the internet selling courses on businesses that they haven't had success since the 2017 Ecom. Like, and the game's changed. Facebook ads were fucking super cheap then. You could make, I could have made money in 2017 doing dropshipping.
Yeah, anyone could have.
Right, do you know what I'm saying? But like now, it's tightened up. Like, you know, you got people that say you can make vast amounts of money in dropshipping from TikTok user generated.
Yeah.
I still think there's a bit more nuance around that you need. The way that you do it, that I've seen that other people never did, was you've always, even though we call it dropshipping, I know you did generics and all that kind of stuff back in the day, but even when we're talking and you were showing me the whole case study for it back when we did the first podcast, it wasn't like you weren't branding the dropshipping stores to make them stand out from the marketplace. So there is a lot of differentiation. Even if you weren't differentiating the exact product, you were differentiating the look and feel of the brand. I think that's something you've been very good at.
Yeah, I feel like that's something that I've learned just over time from other people in the ecom space. Networking is super important as well. As a business owner, you should do a lot of networking, but not crazy networking. And I'm not talking about networking like go to the fucking club and go meet some people spending their ecom money. It's just, networking isn't, just find like-minded people who have a similar goal and just learn off them, because I feel like a lot of people have their own, it's a weird term, but they have their own secret sauce. And it's good to just learn everyone's and then see if you could implement it in your business. And if you can, then go right ahead.
You see, with that secret sourcing that you've talked about, and I've obviously met lots of entrepreneurs that have mentored me and guided me throughout journeys in my time. And when someone gives you a piece of their secret sauce, what works for them, it's up to you to take what they've said and then create your own version of that. You can. I've never seen a bit of secret sauce where I've gone, I can just take that and just implement it, and it actually just fucking works off the bat.
Exactly,
because your mentality, your risk tolerance, and everything else changes as a person to person. So something that, and also say Davey Foggett, you got on the phone with you and said, here's my secret sauce. But you're doing 15 million a year, he's doing 350,000. There's so much nuance between those numbers. Do you know what I mean? Between 15 million and 350 million. There's so much nuance and so much stuff, so many hurdles that have to be jumped. It'd be stupid to do that. You're better off actually taking some advice of someone doing 50 million, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And implementing that in your business.
And I said this in the last podcast, the best people you could learn off is people who have just done what it is you're trying to do, which is why, especially recently, it's really hard for me to go to teach someone. And this is why I really wanted to come out with my ecom program really early, because I feel like I'm getting to a point where I won't be able to teach someone how to go from 0 to 100K a month as well as someone else, because I feel like I could teach someone better teaching them how to do 100 to 1 million a month, because that's what I've just done. So, yeah, I mean, that's still in the works, but I haven't really done anything because I guess as a business owner, I've just been super busy in my business that it just hasn't been important
I mean,
for me.
everyone, when they get into e-commerce and start doing numbers of you, everyone gets tempted by launching an educational product and stuff like that. But the problem is, if the educational product takes you away from the from the action of actually what's making you the real money, and sometimes it's better to concentrate even on that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I know so many people that they've made more money from a course than they have from dropshipping, and they just quit dropshipping. And those are the worst people to learn off, because you're learning from a failure, and if you learn from a failure, you're most likely going to be a failure.
So essentially then, do you reckon that an educational product is something that you would actually truly launch and be fully behind?
I don't know yet, which is why, because I feel like, me personally, I didn't want to launch, so I was meant to launch mine like back in December, but I didn't, because I feel like I could have given people so much more value, so I completely scrapped it. And then I was thinking of launching it February, March when I came back from Europe, but I didn't launch it back then either, because I feel like I'm personally letting people down if it's not fully value packed, and if I'm not the type of person that, well, if I'm not getting the results that they would want me to get. So yeah, that's why I pushed it back. I can't really say if I'm ever going to release it, because I don't know yet. But yeah, I guess we'll see.
At the end of the day, it's got to be right for you, but I think the most important thing to focus on is how do you go from 15 to 50, like 15 to 25, 25 to 50, like, and on from that. That's gonna, and then obviously you can give back more to people when you're at another stage again.
Yeah, I feel like the course program for me is it's more charity work, because I don't really need to make it. I don't want to make it, but I do want to make it because, I mean, at the end of the day, I personally have learned from so many courses. I've invested so much money in different mentors. Some of them not good, some of them great. It's just, because at the end of the day, it's content, and you want to learn off it. So
the one thing I want to talk about as well is when you talked before about these 30% that you're spending. I think people would have look at your lifestyle and think you're spending 30% of your lifestyle, but I imagine some of that 30% is some of the investments you're making into like these watches, and you store money in watches, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. So the watch hobby is a recent hobby I've picked up, but my dad's always got me into watches. So my first watch that my dad gave me was Omega Speedmaster, and I remember he was like, when you graduate from high school, I'm going to give you this, and he gave it to me, and it's still in the cupboard to this day. But I guess he got me into watches, and I like watches because watches is an asset. It's a store of value. So, for example, I think my watch portfolio right now is sitting at like $350,000, which isn't a lot of money for me personally, but I guess like for a lot of people, they're like what the fuck? You've got $350,000 in watches. But yeah, it's just a good store of money. I like to collect watches. I never really sell them. And it's just fun going to the dealer, and I've made a lot of good connections like that. So, for example, one of these dealers in Brisbane, I've made a really good connection with him because I guess he just understands that I genuinely love the watch game, and I just love watches, preferably Rolex. Like I love my Rolexes. But down the line, I have set a goal this year to hit like $1 million watch collection, which I don't know. We'll see if I hit. I could probably hit it if Richard Mille would go sell me a watch already, or Patek, but
I suppose you have to get on an approved buyers list, don't you?
Yeah. I feel like it's who you know. So I actually have made a lot of connections through my network. So yeah, maybe I'll get one this year. If not, I'll probably just buy one on the second-hand market, because I'm really liking I don't know if you've seen the Bubba Watson, the white one.
No.
It's like a Richard Mille. It's like a skeleton one. It looks so nice. And I just buy watches if I like the color. So, for example, this one I bought in Rome. Pretty much just had a chat with the dealer. She was super cool. And then a week later, I got the watch. Because a lot of people don't understand. You could go into a Rolex. They're just going to laugh you out the door if you ask for like a sports model. But if you know your watches, you have to ask for specific watches, and then if a dealer really likes you, they're going to give it to you. For example, I really liked your watch, for example, the Mother of Pearl, and I showed my dad, and he really liked it. So I Pretty much called up my dealer in
You've
Brisbane.
ordered one?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sick.
And then, he's like, I got one here. And then, it's sitting in the boutique right now. And then by the time this podcast is out, I'm going to go give it to my dad. And, hopefully he'll like it.
They're not an off-the-peg watch, are they? With the mother of pearl back, they're not the off-the-peg ones, are they?
No, the mother of pearls are really hard to get because all of them are unique because it actually comes from a piece of pearl.
Do you know how I got this?
Yeah, how?
So I was in Adelaide seeing my friend Kayla and her partner Jay. And Kayla's obviously a famous fitness model that you may know or may not know. You probably fucking know her. But we were going in to pick up one of theirs that they had ordered.
Yeah.
And she turned to me and she said, and Jay turned to me and said, You've worked hard for a number of years, and why don't you get yourself a watch? And I said, I had a lot of limiting beliefs around buying this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot for it was a lot for me to get over on a personal level. So I literally, they literally said, I said, which one do you like? I pointed out this one.
Yeah.
And within a month later, I had this. He sent me through, and when I showed my mate, I'm like, I've just bought this, and I showed you. You was like, bro, you have to be on a waiting list for like years to buy them.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't realise. So it is about connections and who you know,
yeah.
who takes you in. Because I remember them saying in the Rolex dealership in Adelaide, like, you can't just walk in and buy this. And she literally just said, I'll just put him at the start of the list.
If you're buying it for the investment as well, and
not gonna, that was another thing. They're really concerned about me selling it.
Yeah, because they don't want you to sell it. They don't want Rolexes on Facebook Marketplace, all over Facebook Marketplace, because it looks bad on the brand.
Yeah.
Which is why they're very selective with who they sell to. So, you just walk into a boutique, look presentable, have a good chat, and if you genuinely like watches, then you'll get one. But if you're just buying it for the investment, you probably won't.
What kind of things are you aspiring to get to now? Because obviously, like, when people see your lifestyle and the things that you're doing right now, they'll think it'll be at the peak of some people's visions of what they can achieve. But I know you've got a mad vision. Like, what is your vision for the next, till the end of this year to achieve?
To be honest, at the end of this year, I really just want to work on the business, scale up the business. Because recently in the business, we're doing a lot of advertorials, and this is new territory to me. So I really want to focus on that. At the same time, I do want to still have a little bit of fun nowadays, because I guess I've worked so much in the business, and the business for me right now, I could go 90 days out of the business and the business will still be performing as well. It's still be hitting KPIs. It could be breaking records, because the business doesn't really need me. I'm just more expanding into other businesses, and I've kind of taken like an investor role in a sense, because I've done a lot of partnerships with other people with decent brands. So, for example, he's my friend now, or he was my friend like back in school, but one of my friends, Lachlan, we have a beauty brand. That was the brand that I posted. It was one of the brands that I posted on my story, which did 700K in the first 3 months of the year. So that beauty store has been performing really well. We're actually getting a trademark soon, but that's... So
once you trademarked it, you'll release the store name?
Yeah. And that's for example, that's a brand that I definitely want to focus on this year. And as well, my other brand that did, I think it did like 2.8 million in sales in the first 3 months.
Really?
So, yeah, that's
and that's the one that's in the pet niche.
Yeah. So that's the brand that I definitely want to focus on the most.
And how long till you get the trademarks on that one?
Well, the trademark process is actually 6 months. So I called my lawyer up and I was like, how long until I could get a trademark? And he's like, 6 months, but he could submit IP, and then any competitors, we could pretty much just take them down.
So obviously that pivot right there, you got to, I'd say probably $500,000 a month, and then pivoting into brands, right?
I feel like you have to focus on your main brand after you're doing even 100K a month. Focus on that brand and nurture that brand, nurture the customers. Find other products in that niche that you can upsell to those customers. So, for example, the beauty store, we're just upselling a lot of similar products for that niche, and then from there is when you could really nurture a good customer base, and then scale it up from there.
I was looking at a story from a guy called Jordan Hill, who does Shopify editing and all this kind of stuff, all the store editing. And he was talking about the importance of above the fold and stuff like that, and CRO and all that kind of stuff. So what can you talk the guys through now on here, like what you make sure is above the fold to get more sales?
Well, to get more sales is people don't understand SMS and email marketing are so powerful. Because if you've sold 10, 20, 30,000 units of a product, you have thousands of customers which are pretty much your loyal fans. They're people who support you and they'll buy more from you as long as they had a good customer experience. So as long as the product worked well, arrived on time, and is good quality. So yeah, we just focus on good email marketing and good SMS marketing. SMS marketing is actually something I'm focusing on a lot more because my friend, who's kind of my mentor as well, has got me to pivot more into SMS marketing because he's doing really well with that, and he does like hundreds of millions a year.
He is. I don't know if you want to mention his name, but he absolutely smashes it. And to have someone like that in, now at the level you're at, to have someone like that guiding you along the path is got to be helpful. That's why you need to really pick who you're around. And I suppose what I've noticed about you, and similar to me as well, is like you're around a lot of people that are older than you that are kind of guiding you in certain areas. Like you got different people for mindset, you got different people for, you call on if you're going to do something like spend a lot of cash on some dumb purchase. Or
it's really good to have a really broad network. So not just a network of business owners, but also a network of professionals. Good accountant. I have a fucking gun accountant. And we have a meeting literally every couple of weeks just to catch up, make sure everything's in order, because it's really important that you save money on tax, but you don't push it to the point where you get audited or something. So I think accountant's important. Lawyers is also really important because sometimes you run into legal issues with trademarked products. Sometimes, because we're dropshipping a lot of the products, sometimes some of the products are trademarked already. And then we'll run into some issues, so then we kind of dispute it. The lawyers handle it all. So lawyers another super important thing. But I feel like I hang out with a lot of older people because a lot of the people my age, they're not doing anything. Like they're not really... It's really hard for me to find other people, business owners in my age, because a lot of people at this age, they still like to, hang out, party, chill out, whatever, go to festivals, clubs. But, I mean, that's just never really been my thing.
And I want to go back to this as well, like this, because obviously this Q&A, you put up a Q&A box, I've put up a Q&A box, I've not read mine yet, but I'm presuming it'll be similar questions to what's in your Q&A box. And I was actually really disappointed with the level of questioning in the Q&A box, because it's that level of questioning that stops your growth, because the questions aren't well thought out enough in terms of like being specific about, a lot of the questions for us in your box can be answered by Google.
Yeah.
And if people are, I'm not laughing at people. I'm not saying that people should know everything. I'm just saying, like, I would have never asked any of those questions specifically because at the end of the day, I could get any of those questions from Google, any of them. Like, so I just think that we're like on the, oh my, this is like, it's going in front of the camera and everything. We've just been wave braked by a massive yacht.
This is why you don't do podcasts on yachts.
This is why you don't do podcasts on boats. But yeah, like, a lot of the questions gets real specific on your questions. Get super relevant. Like, you've got someone here. If you get 10 minutes with someone like Lester to ask him a question on drop shipping or scaling a brand from 100 to 200k or scaling your first 10k, be super specific and relevant, and don't ask him something like, what product should I start with? Because, like, what the fuck's the point in that?
So for example, my friend mentor guy, we'll just call him
Mr. X.
X, yeah. So when I went over Mr. X's house, I would, before on the drive there, I'd actually think of some questions, because I knew that this guy is a high level person and I definitely don't want to waste his time and don't ask him dumb questions. So I would ask him like very, very intelligent questions and very specific business questions, which only he would know the answer to, because I mean, it's a road that it's a race he's already run. And then, I'd get really good questions out of that.
I mean, one of the good questions to ask someone like that is to say, look, I'm doing 15 million a year right now. What are some of the things that I've overlooked in my business right now that you had already implemented at 15 million a year?
Yeah,
like, that's a real specific fucking question. Like, what things can I not see in my business? What things am I not doing? Where am I overlooking it? That's specific as fuck. He can answer that, and he'd actually have some joy from answering it, because he'd have to think back what was I doing at 15 million that this kid's overlooking. And now he's stimulated. So now he wants to answer the question. He don't want to answer the question is what fucking product should I launch?
Yeah.
I know it sounds, but I really want people to get that. The more specific you are, the more you have to think about, answering a question. The more you're likely to be involved in answering a question.
Yeah. So one of the questions I actually asked Mr. X is with shipping, because one of his best advice was shipping from Australia, and that's helped me out dramatically. So I was shipping from Australia, but importing products is new to me, because I had to use a freight forwarder or whatever, and I didn't know how to import it. And then one of the best advices he gave me was just LCL it, which is I think it stands for less than a container load. And then we got it in, and now we're fulfilling from Australia.
And it's just because you asked him the right specific question.
Yeah,
it's amazing how much your life can change when you ask the right questions.
Yeah, and that's where I feel like just spending time with him, and I've spent time with it's actually funny, because these two friends that I've been hanging out with the most in Australia, they both have Ferraris, and coincidentally I suddenly have a Ferrari too, because I feel like you just become who you hang out with, and if you're hanging out with a bunch of bums, a bunch of losers, then guess what, you're going to be the next one.
I mean, it's so basic, but it's literally everything you're saying is so true, because I've seen it in my own life. I mean, I don't drink, smoke, or touch any of these hardcore recreational drugs like other people do, because essentially, where does that take me towards? It takes me towards the oblivion that everyone else that does those kind of products goes towards. You can't. There's not one of those that is going to add any value to your fucking life.
Yeah, none of them.
So it's like, why would you put yourself in this situation?
Like if you're spending so much time on partying, like fuck, why don't you go spend time at the gym, for example, and then the gym will have a way better outcome and way better results than spending time partying.
That's one thing as well you've implemented since you started to become more and more successful, is you've put more and more time into your health and fitness.
There's a saying, we treat the body rigorously so it won't be disobedient to the mind. And that's what I've been living by over the past couple of months, because I feel like I can't even control my own body whenever I don't go to the gym, because all of a sudden I'm laying in bed, and for me personally, it's so easy to be comfortable. If I'm in fucking Italy, for example, there's no reason for me to wake up. I don't really need to do anything. I don't need to expand the business, because I've got people that are focusing on that for me. But it's the discipline of going to the gym which helps me wake up, I guess. Another thing that it just keeps playing in my head whenever the alarm goes off is, people, they always set 2 alarms, right? And I feel like the first alarm is for the man you want to be, and the second alarm is for the man you are. And that plays in my head all the time. As soon as that first alarm goes off, I'm like, this is who I want to be. I want to be someone who can wake up from an alarm, wake up on time, do work. And I've just, over the past months, focusing on fitness is super important, because personally I'm not a person who does a lot of fitness, but recently I've just been gymming.
I think as you get through, you start to really prioritize your health, and kind of like, even I'm going on 35 in June, and health has been my key priority my whole life, because I know that gives me longevity.
Yeah, there's a lot of research from Andrew Huberman and his team. He's like a famous neuroscientist. So Andrew Huberman says a lot about there's a lot to do with your fitness and your dopamine. If you're not working out, then your dopamine levels are going to be low, but a way you can increase it is just by working out. It's so weird that working out and lifting weights helps you in your business, but personally for me, from my experience, it does.
One thing as well that I think we should touch upon that you've implemented very well in your life, and obviously have a lot of balance with, is the girlfriend. You literally settled down, found the beautiful girlfriend really early. How has it been like in terms of leveling you out and keeping you on a level with that?
I feel like because I've done this before, where you look at a lot of successful people, they've got one goal, and it's a solid goal. And Neve for me is a solid goal because I could stay very grounded, and then I don't waste time because personally, I'll be honest, I used to waste a lot of time texting girls because it's just a normal thing for young males to do, and to be honest, it's a waste of time.
Dead energy, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, and then eventually I've taught her how to set up her own dropshipping business, and she did find a little bit of success, but recently it has been going well. But I told her, like, this is just like how business is. Like, if you want to be a skilled sailor, just learn to ride the waves.
But as it added a lot of stability to your life by getting this locked in early.
Yeah, definitely, because then it eliminates the want and need to message other girls, waste time hanging around other girls, because, like, personally for me, it's a waste of time and I don't really get any energy off it. Whereas with her, I get a lot of good feminine energy. If I have a long day and I had to make a lot of very tough business decisions, I could go home, I could go to bed and lay down, and she's there to comfort me.
And also as well, like you get to share a lot of experiences. A lot of the younger guys in the dropshipping game that are also successful like you, they all blow in an even wilder amount of cash on lifestyle to make up for the fact that they're probably a bit lonely from what they're doing, right?
Yeah, exactly. I feel like as well, like, I'll be honest, I was very lonely before, and I just wanted a girlfriend. It was actually a coincidence that we met. We met at a Halloween party, and yeah, we just took off really well. She understands me, I understand her. Yeah.
It's good. It's good though for that people hear a young man that's building his life with, you know, one solid, because there's a lot of advice, and I've even done podcasts in this that I've probably come out before this one, where men talk about having multiple girlfriends and all this and the other, and it's like, it sounds fucking great.
Yeah, it
sounds fucking fantastic, but the actual true ailment of executing on something like that, you need to employ staff to fucking manage the fucking drama you have. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, in terms of like long term, I do understand it, but then I see people like you and how you move and the life that you have because you move that way, and other successful people, and the majority of successful people aren't living life like that. That are happy.
I have a lot of friends that do spend a lot of money on girls, lots of them. And, I mean, just ask yourself, like, how much are you spending on girls and how much are you spending on your mum? Because a lot of these guys, like, your mum's raised you for, what, 18 plus years? And you've known a girl for, what, a year, 2 years, and you're spending all of this, or even a girl that you just met and you're spending all this money on her. I feel like you're just being selfish.
We have a good friend who loves a Russian.
Yeah.
and he sets himself up a budget to deal with that. I'm like, bro, like, I try and have the same conversation with him that I had with you years ago, and as of yet he's not listening. But eventually he'll have to listen to me. Yeah, and he'll have to fall into alignment with the one thing, because as soon as that man there gets the one thing in place, and it's the one thing, then his business will triple.
I feel like it's really important to have just one solid person, because then it eliminates the need to explore. And then, focus on your business. I feel like inevitably you'd focus on your business if it was the most important thing. A lot of people get distracted and then they start blaming, for example, their partners because their business isn't succeeding. But why are you blaming your partner? Because you spent so much time on your partner. Obviously, she matters more than your business, so now your business is failing. So yeah, it's just one solid good chick. It's funny because Neve was actually some of her stores weren't going well recently, and she was like stressed because she wasn't making much money. And I was like, babe, even if you make absolutely nothing, you're still going to be flying first class everywhere. You're still going to be chilling on a yacht, having fun, traveling. Like, I'm still going to pay for everything. And I feel like it is a man's responsibility to take care of his woman. Yeah, no,
I feel you on that, and I know that you've always treated her accordingly, and I think that's very good that you stand by that thing. Here goes the boat rocking again, mate. This podcast on a boat thing is my first podcast on a boat. But one thing I want to touch upon as well in this, because otherwise we're going to get all the comments under the YouTube video. Even though when people get a lot of free value out of these kind of podcasts, they still complain in the comments. And one of the things they go, oh, why couldn't you ask this? Why couldn't you ask that? So what are the questions that you want to answer for this audience that I've not asked you that I should have asked you?
I actually don't really have a lot of questions that I think that you've missed. I feel like naturally there are going to be people who will comment bad things, but there are always people that are faceless. They're people that don't want to put their face out because they know within themselves, anyone who projects hate is, I just feel sorry for them, because people that project hate are really sad inside, because a happy person would never project hate. And I feel like naturally for every like 10, 20 people that you inspire, there's going to be one hater out of there. But I guess it's just part of it. I know in the recent podcast there was one bad comment, someone saying that the amount of lies in the podcast. I didn't even go to school with that person because I remember people who I went to school with, and yeah, I guess I checked his profile. It was a fake profile, no profile photo, fake name even. Tried to search him up.
You get a lot of that, but I just wanted to ask you that question because I wanted to make sure that, because I don't... Obviously, I try and ask the Ecom specific questions to tick that box so that people get enough value from that point. But I think it's really good to understand the psychology and the stability with having a girlfriend and all that kind of stuff, and all the other stuff that people don't ask on any e-commerce podcast. The things that are staples in a man that's successful that not many people see and not many people know about, but it's ultra important, I feel, to get to the level that you get into. Because the way that you've got to the level that you are now is because you've been extremely focused, and the way you've been extremely focused is because, not just because of like you got a goal and you've zoned in, but because you haven't actually had to do all this other shit because you've got things locked in.
I think at the end of the day, it's very simple. You do the bare minimum, you'll get the bare minimum. So do as much as you can, work hard, and eventually you'll. We
will film an Ecom Q&A on the way back, but we have to shoot off this podcast now because I think the sun's setting and we've got half an hour left to get on these jet skis, and Neve's looking at me like, if you don't finish this podcast now, I'm going to shoot you in the head. And that is all I need to encourage me to get off the podcast. But guys, I hope you've got some mad value from this little episode from a boat. I reckon we'll also do a part 3 in probably a couple of months' time as well. And I was actually talking to Lester today, just to drop it in early. I was talking to Lester today about we're thinking about running like an e-commerce mastermind type event thing that we want you all to come to. We haven't figured out exactly how we're going to do it, but we're thinking maybe of doing it in either Dubai or Australia, wherever kind of works for us. But maybe like a 1 day, maybe a 2 day, whatever we feel. But I think it's something where you guys could get a lot of value from. So if that's something that you're interested in, let us know in the DMs, because essentially, like, predicated on the demand is whether we'll do the thing or not. But I just want to say thank you, mate, for being legendary and your first guy to book us a boat for the podcast.
Well, thanks for having me on. I do just want to say one last thing. Recently my business has done a lot of partnerships, so if you have an ecom brand which you're scaling, or you're having issues with scaling and you want to work with me and my team, just reach out to me through DMs, and maybe we could work together. Yeah,
and also I'll get Lester to give me an email as well that you can drop in. It's probably better if we have a specific email for that amount of inquiries that they email in. And the last thing I want to check out with, if there's one piece of wisdom that you can leave today that will move every one of these people that watch this podcast that 1% forward in their life, what would it be?
You put me on the spot here, but it would be, how big would you dream if you knew you couldn't fail? And that's the mindset you have to go in with business. You just have to think as if you can't fail, and then you'll start making the right moves, because it's my favorite saying, you'll just send it.
You'll send it on all levels. Guys, do me a favor, like, subscribe, comment, share this podcast with your friends. I hope it's added a massive amount of value to your life. I'm about to go and get my bald head on this jet ski. Much love. I appreciate it. That's Lester Javelona. I'm proud of this guy more than he'll ever know, and I can't wait to bring you episode 3 when we drop that, whenever that is in the future. Much love, my brother.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Peace out.
Guys, do me a solid favor. Drop a comment below this video and let us know who you want on the podcast next.